He's going to have to knock out the park. He's going to have to win Scudetto. They're going to have to get to quarter-finals, semi-finals of the Champions League, and he's going to have to be top scorer.
This is the Park the Bus podcast with Stephen Caldwell and Kevin Kilbane.
Kevin, let's get right into it. The only place we can start this week is Jonathan David eventually, finally, finding his club and moving to Juventus, and what was a big move. We were waiting all summer, in fact, probably since the turn of the year, on this coming around. And knowing that he has chosen Juventus, I feel a little bit underwhelmed. Juventus is a tremendous club. I want to start there by saying that. But I think moving to Serie A is a bit disappointing from Jonathan David. I expected him to move to a bigger league. So seeing him in Serie A, while Juventus is a great club, the position that they're in at the minute, finishing 4th place last season and not being at their best for, 4 or 5 years now, was a surprise for me. Now, am I being ridiculous? Does this give him an opportunity to take Juventus back to where it belongs, or do you feel the same?
I think it's a great start for us there, Steve. You're kind of thrown it open straight away, haven't you, on Jonathan David? But look, let's be honest now. I think he's gone to a great club, one of the greatest clubs in world football right now. You can't get away from that. That Juventus are one of the all-time greats with what they've done, what they've achieved. I know, I kind of know what you're saying, and it does seem harsh to say on it because of where Serie A is. Serie A is not the league it was when I was a kid, when I, fell in love with Batistuta and Roberto Baggio and people like this that were playing in Serie A at that time. It isn't in the same place, and I think that's where we've got to accept that the world of football certainly moved on very quickly over the last 20, 25 years or whatever it's going to be. But just the point there, what you're saying is a chance. I feel as though that for Jonathan David, if he'd have gone to Liverpool where he was rumoured, or Barcelona or whichever, he was rumoured with everyone. Simply because of Atletico Madrid, simply because of the position he was in, the contract he was in. If there was a huge fee to start with, I don't think he would have been linked with those clubs. So I think it was more as we spoke about a few weeks ago, the pure economic side of it, why a lot of these clubs were in for him in a big way.
So were they clubs serious about getting him in, or were they just testing the waters because he was a good financial, economical package?
I'd love to know what contract offer was on the table, and if there was a contract offer on the table ready for him to sign from these big clubs. And it doesn't seem like there was. It was almost as if, yes, he's in talks with them. Now, again, we addressed this last week, but being in talks with a team and signing for a team is very, very different, or a contract offer on the table. It's very, very different. It's a long process, as we know, and things like this. But the comment that you made there about something that Juventus are building something around him. Now, he has got the chance to be the number 9 for Juventus for a number of years with a team being built around him. That, to me, would be really appealing, Stevie. It would be appealing in such a way that I'm going to, the big club, the biggest club in Serie A, with a chance to bring Juventus back to former glories, to bring them back to where they were maybe in the past, and be a legend. If you're going to be a legend at any club, you want to be a legend at Juventus, don't you? A real legend. So there's that opportunity for him. I don't know if Juventus have got enough to bring Juventus forward quickly, but I think it could be the building blocks, the step in the right direction for Juve as a club to get Jonathan David through the door, get him signed. Now, where do we go to? Now, transfer fees aside, which is going to be difficult, they can't compete. Italian teams cannot compete with PSG, with the big dogs from the Premier League, with Real Madrid. They can't compete in terms of transfer fees and probably in terms of wages. So it's a real coup for Juve to get him, considering what was on offer or supposedly on offer elsewhere in Europe. I go with him on this one, Stevie, and it's not for me to be different. I just think that this opportunity for Jonathan David to go to a huge club and build a potential legendary status at a team like Juventus, that to me would be really appealing. It really would appeal to me.
He was very clear he wanted that, wasn't he? He was very clear he wanted a club where he could be the star that gave him Champions League football, that allowed him to take his profile and his game to the next level. And when you think about the things that were important to him, then Juventus really does strike a chord. And the fact that he's chosen to go there, I think, makes a lot of sense. Juventus is a club where there's always expectations, whether they're at the top of European football or they're at the stage that they are at the minute. There is always expectations for Juventus to win.
I'll just ask you this one quickly. Just don't know that. Well, there's a few points really within that as well, and where Juventus are, and you know, could he have gone elsewhere where he would have been considered maybe potential second choice, but going to a team that's right at the top, probably winning Premier Leagues or Serie A, or La Liga or wherever it would be.
Yes.
Would you rather have gone to Juventus or PSG? Now, he's been in Ligue 1, probably realises that the league is not as competitive as it probably would be in Serie A or elsewhere. What would you have rather done in that position?
Well, it's two types of battles, isn't it? It's the battle of being the main man and taking a storied club back to its levels, or it's the battle of going to a club that are in tremendous form, that are at the top echelons of European football, and establishing yourself at number 9. And I think when I said at the beginning I was underwhelmed, I think what I was saying that maybe I was a little disappointed that he didn't go to that standard of club if it was there. And we have to say that. We don't know for sure. Like a Liverpool, like a PSG, like a Barcelona, where it was highly unlikely that he was stepping in there as the first choice number 9. He was going to have to go and probably play minutes off the bench and establish himself as the number 9, as a capable number 9 of leading the line week in, week out for that level of club. So I would probably have went for that.
Would you?
Yes.
Would you I think that's an interesting one. And there's another point to this as well. Would you have waited it out? So he's signed now, which I think is always better for him personally, that he's really integrated at Juve, or would you have waited it out to see how the lie would have been laid in the coming weeks? Once the season starts, he's not agreed a contract, he's not signed a contract, but there's a potential for one of the really big boys to come in and go, look, we're struggling for goals this season, let's go and get David.
Great question.
That could have happened.
It's a great question. I totally understand his anxiety about waiting longer and longer, especially when you have no contract, you're back from the Gold Cup, you want to get started.
You're probably not
going.
right until October, November at that stage, are you?
Yeah, and I think you're waiting too long, and you know, the waiting it out probably would have been wise in the sense that when you look at some of the 9s that are ahead of him in the transfer talk, like Gyökeres, who appears to be going to Arsenal. You've got Šeško, who was rumoured at Arsenal. You know, these I'm probably missing a couple, but 3 or 4 guys who are ahead of David for the elite clubs. Once they decide where they're going to go and that kind of lands where it's going to be, then David comes into the equation as the next guy, you know. So maybe waiting a fortnight, 14 days, 3 weeks might have gave him a higher profile club. But
you know, when you're in that position of when you're moving clubs, you know it yourself, Stevie, that it's such a dangerous position, I think, to be in, because you're eager to sign the contract because you know that offer's on the table, but also you're kind of in the back of your mind, you're thinking, is it the right move? You know, it really is down to that one as well, and it's.
You always think you're going to play though, don't you?
Yeah,
no matter where you go.
Back yourself.
Because people always say in the background, why is this guy going to Man City or Real Madrid? But as a player, back to when we played, you always assume wherever you go, you're going to play. I'm backing myself. I'm going to win the battle. I'm going to end up in the starting 11. So you would think he was like that, but I think it's important, as we were touching on there, to recognise that he wanted the responsibility of being a star. He wanted the responsibility of being a huge signing for a club. And I think Juventus came to the top because they established themselves as that team. We see you...
And you wanted. You're wanted.
We see you as the guy that's taken us back to glory. So, in the end, it makes sense. I just think that maybe going to a bigger club would have done more for Jonathan David's career trajectory and also his confidence in establishing himself as an elite number 9. The last point I'll make here, Kev, on the debate here, you and I have had the debate for a couple of weeks now around where does he sit in the top 25, the top 10 of world strikers. I think this has shown to me that he is not in the top 10. We mentioned Gyökeres, we mentioned Šeško, Harry Kane still ahead of him, Lewandowski, you know, Isaac, Haaland.
I disagree with that. I do disagree with that. I do. And I take you. I'll always take your point. I'll rarely agree with it, but no, but I disagree with that. But this is simply down to, honestly, and I think within this one is, David has gone to that club because he has been made feel wanted most. That is and sometimes.
But why was he not wanted more by some of the more high-profile teams?
Well, because there's a message.
Because they have a 9 that's better than him there at the moment.
Well, listen, he's not going to go to Bayern Munich because he simply won't play ahead of Harry Kane. Right now, he's not going to play ahead of Harry Kane.
And he's not going to go to Inter Milan because he won't play ahead of Lautaro Martinez. And he's
not
going to go to Newcastle because he won't play ahead of Isak.
Right, and he won't go ahead of Manchester City because he's not going to play ahead of Haaland. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So there's 10 clubs out there.
Alvarez maybe, but we've listed maybe Mbappe at Real Madrid. He's not going to play ahead of these guys. But I think if you're looking around the 9 or 10 mark, I think he's coming into that sort of category. Outside the real elite, the 6 or 7. Look, if you're looking at Osimhen and players like this that's been rumoured for big moves, you could easily put Jonathan David alongside Osimhen. Easily put him alongside Jackson that you mentioned a couple of weeks ago. All these sort of players. Easily, because I feel as though that transfer fees aside of everything that's going to go in, because you have to spend a lot of money to get some of those guys as well. That's, Gyökeres is just saying it's going to cost a lot of money. Šeško is going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Economics suggests to me it would have been a no-brainer for a lot of clubs just to go, let's just go and get this deal done.
And that's what I'm questioning. Why didn't it happen? So, listen, I love the guy. I love Jonathan David as a person. Yeah. And I love him as a player. You know that. You've heard me talk about him enough times. And I'm really rooting for him to do well because I know the work that he puts in. He's a quiet guy that goes about his business. He's a great professional. He loves football. And he's someone that I hope takes a step to the next level. And I really believe that Juventus is a platform that he could do that. I was just a little underwhelmed that he went to that level of club.
I hear you because of the clubs that we were probably expecting to. But there's one other thing that I want to say on this as well, Stevie T, is... Right, say Harry Kane is not at Bayern Munich and Bayern Munich are there for him to go to Bayern Munich, right? And he's playing in the league. Take out Bayer Leverkusen. 12 of the last 13 seasons have been dominated by one team. So he's playing for a team that's totally dominant. PSG in Ligue 1 have dominated Ligue 1. I wouldn't like to... to me, we're getting away from how big domestic leagues are. They're all domestic leagues and the internal battles, the week in, week out, the grind that goes into winning a game. Yeah. He's going to get that in Serie A. He's going to get week in, week out. He's going to play for a huge club where expectancies are high internally. Yes, everyone expect Juventus to be right at the top of European football, and Champions League football, should I say. But Champions League football is not everything to a lot of the clubs. And if I look at Manchester City have been dominant probably in England for the last 10 years. Winning the Premier League is still more important to them than winning the Champions League. Liverpool, it's still more important for them to win the Premier League than win the Champions League because your domestic title, in my opinion, has to mean more than the Champions League because we saw Chelsea win the Champions League in 2012. I think it was 2012. Were they the best team in Europe? They won the league and they've got the name on it, but they were as far from... They were 6th or 7th in the Premier League that season. They were mid-table before... Di Matteo took over.
So, I'll ask you this, Kev. Is he better going to Serie A, which I see as a very competitive league in terms of there's Inter Milan, there's AC Milan, there's Juventus, Atalanta, maybe in that second rung of Roma. You know, can win the league, can really go through a season
Napoli,
and can win the Napoli, of course, the champions, which is crazy, with Conte as well. So, you know, we've talked about 6 or 7 there that have legitimately got a chance of winning the league. But when we look at the Premier League, 3? Arsenal,
next year,
Man City, Liverpool.
Next season,
You know, we look at Spain, 3, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid. And again, Atletico Madrid is a push.
Yes.
You know, in Germany, Bayern Munich, out-and-out favourites. You'll get an anomaly. You'll get a Leverkusen here or there. A Dortmund might come and win it. But predominantly Munich every year. So is he better going to that level of competition kind of week in, week out, even though the standard might not be as high?
I think that's going to benefit Canada next summer.
Right.
I think it'll benefit Canada. Now, Premier League, you say, he might not be a champion in the Premier League, but we understand how competitive every single game is, whether you're scrapping at the bottom, whether you're in mid-table. Now, we know that there's definitely been a more level playing field across the Premier League than it probably was 10 or 15 years ago. A lot of the sides are way more competitive against the top sides that you not necessarily would have expected years ago. Serie A's probably, I think, easily the best league to watch in Europe, where at the start of the season, if you said Atalanta's going to win Serie A, you wouldn't be laughed out of it.
Yeah.
If you said that, even Chelsea, if you said Chelsea's going to win the Premier League, you'd go, no chance.
Yeah.
Because they've still got a long way to go. They may well do, and things like that. That's why Leicester, when they won it all those years ago now, it came out the blue, and everyone was just so shocked because of the dominance of the money teams, the teams that had the most money in the Premier League. So Serie A, to me, makes sense to definitely for Canada and Jesse Marsh next summer because of the competitive nature of the league, week in, week out. He is going to play, and he's going to be coming off the field every single week knowing he's been in a game. And that's whether he's playing against teams at the bottom that are scrapping, because staying in Serie A is like staying in Premier League and other leagues around Europe. Whereas I think from halfway down in France, halfway down in Germany, domestically, that's not the case. But I'm still watching the bottom of Serie A. I'm probably still watching the bottom of La Liga to an extent as well. I'm absolutely watching the bottom of the Premier League because of, obviously my history and your history within that. So that's what makes those three leagues, to me, stand out above Germany and above France, because of the 1 to 18, 1 to 20, whatever's playing in the league. It's so competitive, and that's what I feel with Italy, with him going there.
I just think that... and I'm going to mention two other guys that I love, and it's no disrespect to them. They've had great seasons, but McTominay and Gilmour go to Serie A. McTominay's the best player in Serie A last season.
As well, yes.
They win the league, he does so well, but really, in the largest, the highest levels, Premier League, La Liga, obviously is just another player.
Yeah.
Is it a challenge enough for David to go to Serie A? If he goes to Serie A, and if he wins the Scudetto with Juventus and he scores 25 goals, he's going to be huge, no doubt, especially if they have a decent Champions League run as well. But if he goes to Serie A and he gets 15, 20 goals and they finish in second or third, a little bit better, not quite top, what has it done to his stock,
No, I agree. I agree with that statement. I do agree with what you're saying there as well, that we're still going to be looking at Jonathan David come next summer.
We're going to ask him to take the next step
still, where we've asked that question now for 3 years of him, haven't we? So,
So he's got to knock it out of the park for this to be a huge success.
It has to be,
in a 1 year, over a 1 year time frame, he's going to have to knock out the park. He's going to have to win Scudetto. They're going to have to get to quarter-finals, semi-finals of the Champions League, and he's going to have to be top scorer. In Scudetto.
If he does something similar to what Inter Milan did, Champions League final. I know they got dominated in the Champions League final, but if he does that, being the main man, then you're looking at it different. Yeah, that's true. That's true, and I'll take that. I do take what you're saying there, that there's so much pressure now on modern-day football, modern-day strikers especially. It's always been strikers, but strikers' numbers now are the one thing that we talk about. Goals and assists for an attacking player it's crucial, whereas I think maybe going back, you would still recognise a striker that can do so much more than just score goals or create. They bring so many more skills to the field. It's not that now, is it?
No.
It is your number one job, your number one priority is to score. If you're not scoring, you have to be assisting, and that is the way that it is, isn't it?
So it is, and it's probably to the detriment of Jonathan David, because he does have more to his game. His game is not just about scoring goals. He does a lot of things really well. I think that he needs a partner. So I think there's a lot of talk that they're going to play two up top, Juventus.
That'll be Vlahovic. He'll keep Vlahovic.
Maybe. Rumour he's leaving.
Exactly.
They want to keep Koulibaly, don't they?
Yeah, he's not going to be happy. Vlahovic has been the main guy there. And his numbers aren't great, Vlahovic, at Juve in comparison to Jonathan David, but he'll want it. I mean...
The key is, can they keep Koulibaly?
Yes.
Can they have a partnership with David and Koulibaly? That, to me, is very exciting.
Yes.
I'd love to see the two guys play together, and I think that David works better off a central striker.
They're talking Jadon Sancho in there as well to create for those guys. So that's a potential player that
signing.
Jonathan David would be desperate for that sort of player to go in, wouldn't he? That type of player, wouldn't he?
Yeah, so I think depending on what kind of style they play and what role he has in that, there's an opportunity there for him to be that star. But he's got to take his game to that level. But I've got a lot of admiration for the fact that he wanted to go to a club where there was pressure on him every single game, and he's done that with Juventus. They are a historic club. They're a huge football club that are hopefully building back towards what they can be, but are certainly down a number of levels from where we expect Juventus to be in the European game, on the European stage, and in their own league, dominating and sort of winning title after title.
That's what we expect. Yeah, exactly. Domestic titles is a must. Competing seriously at Champions League, that's where they have to be, and that's pretty much it. Let's broaden it out a little bit more as well. I enjoyed that on David because I think there's so much to... We'll come back to Jonathan David a lot across the course of this season, but let's broaden it out a little bit, Stevie, on two or three other Canadian players that are involved in transfers now, potential transfers. I'll start with... First one we'll start with is Tajon Buchanan, who had a great... I think it's definitely something for us to look at this season to go, Tajon Buchanan is back. He's back to where he was 3 or 4 years ago. Very good Gold Cup, very good Canadian Shield prior to that as well. So he's played probably 6 games, I would think. It's probably across the summer. 5 or 6 starts across the summer. And he hasn't started an awful lot of games. His minutes have really been down with injuries and everything else that have gone into his moves into Milan and that Villarreal move. What does Tajon Buchanan need now to take him to the next level before next summer's World Cup? Again, we keep looking at the summer's World Cup, but realistically, Tajon Buchanan's got to be a bit selfish here, hasn't he? He's got to be, I've just got to get my move right to play minutes. For me personally, that's a bonus. Canada World Cup next year's bonus. That's always probably going to be there anyway for him. So he needs the minutes now with his club, a team that's going to be focused on him and playing him week in, week out.
So I'll tell you what I want to see. I hope that he hangs around at Inter Milan for a little bit here, because
good shout.
There's a change in manager. They've had Inzaghi for a number of years, and we all know Inzaghi plays 3-5-2. He's probably the best in the world at playing 3-5-2. But 3-5-2 doesn't suit Tajon Buchanan, in my opinion.
He's played there a lot, but I don't think it suits him either.
Well, I don't think he's a wing-back. I think he's a winger.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's a 9, which he's played at different times, at 9-10. I think he's a winger. So probably too early to tell what shape Christian Kivu, remember Kivu? Left foot?
I know.
I love Kivu. What a player. So hopefully he's as good a manager. But Kivu going in there to Inter Milan, I think there's still, some debate what formation he's going to play. If he's going to play 4-3-3 and Buchanan can have a good pre-season here for Inter Milan, maybe he can get some minutes. What I'm trying to say is I think he should hang around until early to mid-August and see if he can establish himself firmly in Kivu's plans to play. And if he can, I don't think he should leave Inter Milan. If he can't, then he's still got 2.5, 3 weeks to find that move, to go and play somewhere else in Europe, and obviously needs to establish himself there, go in as a starter or as a key player for that team. So I think we shouldn't panic so much about Buchanan. We should wait a little bit. He should wait a little bit and see if he can take that great summer form, June, early July form, into pre-season. He'll be flying. I know they were at Club World Cup, Inter Milan, but he'll be flying also. He's fit, he's ready, he's confident. Can he take that into Inter Milan training and pre-season and maybe get in, catch the eye of Christian Kivu?
I'm going to finish off my point or my question here to you as well. Was it a good move to Inter Milan? Right. So, and the reason why I say that, do you remember when we were talking probably, it was 18 months ago when he first got the move to Inter Milan? And I was telling maybe the story about when Gerard Houllier was on the phone for Liverpool. And there was a number of options for me when I was at West Bromwich Albion. And you can probably say that West Bromwich Albion were in the same sort of position of Bruges at that time. Similar sort of move. Where do I go? What am I going to do? And, I go back to your point before that you said you back yourself. Now, if you're going to back yourself to play, the manager's got to give you the right message that you are going to play. Now, Gerard Houllier, to me, was telling me, look, you're going to be part of our 16-man squad. You're going to be on the bench. You're going to be back with the reserve.
It's going to take you a while.
So that was the message. Rather than Gerard Houllier saying to me, you're going to play. You're going to be part of my team. You're going to be our guy every week. And I know at the time I wasn't a Liverpool fan or anything. All my dad and my brother were Liverpool fans. It was definitely appealing to the size of club that Liverpool were at the time.
But the way he was talking, was that putting your nose out of the joint a little bit?
I felt... I'm an international footballer here. I've just established myself with Ireland. I know there's a lot of interest. There was a lot of interest. I was still a championship player. one of the most sought-after Championship players at that time. There was Leeds that were there. There was obviously Sunderland, where I ended up going to. I think Southampton. There was a number of clubs anyway, whatever it would be, that were Premier League teams that were all in. But Peter Reid gave me the message of, you're going to play. Every week, you're going to play games for me. Now, that was just music to my ears. It was music to my ears. I never got that message from Julian, and I know they understand it. And people have always said to me, how can you turn Liverpool down? At the time, I was only 21, I think, 22 or something like that, in a position where maybe I should have backed myself. Maybe it was the right move for me to do, so I could have maybe helped. I was still developing as well. I still needed a lot of development. I remember we played against Liverpool when I was at West Brom in the old Coca-Cola Cup, I think it was at the time, the League Cup. And Gerard Houllier was manager of Liverpool. And I always remember Ray Harford, who was my manager at West Brom, Lord to mercy, he passed away a number of years ago now, Ray. Ray was great for me, great coach, brilliant coach, assistant manager when Blackburn Rovers won the Premier League. And he was an incredible coach, Ray, especially for attacking players like I was at the time as well. And he said to me, if you're going to watch one player on the field, watch Steve McManaman. Watch how McManaman plays. And it was just before McManaman got his move to Real Madrid, just his free transfer. And to play against McManaman and see what he did, he wasn't restricted to a wide man role like many English teams at that time.
Add to his game by that point, wasn't
playing
he?
on the inside, playing as a 10, creative, so good, so good. I had a chat with Macca a few years ago about it, actually, and I told him the story about it, and he said to me he remembered the game, which he probably didn't, but I remember him being so good in everything that he did, and he had a great season at Liverpool that year before he moved to Real Madrid. But just going back to Houllier, and Houllier said to me, look, I saw you playing, you did well in this game or whatever it would be, but I've seen you have monitored your career for a long time. We really feel as though you're going to develop into a really good player for us. And I can't remember the full extent of conversations, but there was a but. There was a big but at the end. You're not going to play for us right now.
You've got stuff to
and when he said that to me, I don't need developing. I'm an international footballer.
But that's the ego, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the ego.
Was when I should have maybe just come down from that ego that I want to play.
But I think people...
And I should have backed myself for maybe a little bit as well.
But we all, as professional football players, have to have a certain amount of ego, don't we?
Yeah.
It's in us. It's the balance between getting too high and sort of getting too low. You got to keep it in the middle.
Absolutely.
So
and just going back to Buchanan on it though, I don't know where you're going to go.
I was just going to tell you a quick story on it. So when I signed for Sunderland, I go in as the big guy. You know, I've been in the Premier League with Newcastle, and obviously you know Mick McCarthy very well. The first day Mick's walking me out to the pitches, I'm chatting. I've never really had a one-on-one conversation with him at this point. And he looks at me right away, and I played on the right side. I was a right footer, as you know. Yeah. And he looks at me right away and he says, Gary Breen's the best centre-back in this league.
And you'd signed at this stage.
Yeah,
you'd signed at this stage.
Signed the first day of pre-season.
Yeah, he's an
Gary Breen is the best centre-back in this league. I said, OK. He said, so you need to learn how to play with Gary Breen. So you're going to play on the left and he's going to play on the right because he's the best.
That's a subtle... That seems like a subtle change, but that's a big change.
But my ego was hurt because I thought I was coming in... Not that I thought I was better than Breeny, but I thought I was coming in as this big guy, and Mick's put me right in my place. I got to learn how to play with him because he's better than me.
Not the other way around.
He's more experienced than me. He's got everything. And I did learn, and we had a great partnership. And I actually, Mick added to my game because then I could play in right or left because I started working on my left foot. But this balance between egos and what coaches say to you and how that affects where you go and who you land at, I think has a big impact. So back to Buchanan, what I would say is, you asked me, going to Inter Milan though, was it the right move? And I'll say, when a club like Inter Milan comes for you, it's very hard to say no. Yeah. I'm assuming, I've never been asked to go to Inter Milan, but you're a club and you want to go, but you got to try and recognise the little things that the coach and Inzaghi at the time is saying to you, where you fit in that. And try and make the best decision for your career.
Inzaghi probably wouldn't have had a major conversation tactically with him, would he? Because of modern day, you deal with directors of football, with the guys that's running the football business.
Supposedly Inzaghi didn't know too much about Buchanan. Right. It was more of a club signing, supposedly.
Yeah. Again, economics. What was it, 6-7 million? Yeah. It's not a huge outlay for them thinking.
It was a chance. They took a chance on him.
Money back on him. Yeah. That's the comparison I can make within that. But when he went and he's not playing, I know that all I wanted to do was play games, Steve.
Yeah.
And I know that I probably got to 25, the age 25 in my life, and I probably played 300 games because all I wanted to do was play games.
Yeah.
Maybe not 250 or something like that, whatever it would be. And I look, when we cover a lot of the MLS now, and you see numbers of guys that are 25, 26 that have got 50 games in their career, and I think, it's crazy. It's crazy to me because to me, playing was everything. Absolutely everything.
So when I went to Sunderland at 24, I'd played a handful of games because I'd been in the Premier League, a couple of loan spells. Yeah. And I made that decision when I'm making this move to this club, the rest of my career, I'm going to play every week.
Every week.
I'm going to play every week. And whenever I went through a period at a club, and it happened at Sunderland, after a period when we got promoted to Premier League, I'm chapping Mick's door and I'm saying, I'm not here to watch, I'm here to play.
Yeah.
And if you think that I'm third, fourth, fifth choice centre-back, then we need to have a conversation. I have to move.
Yes.
And I kept that mindset for the rest of my career, Kevin. I'm glad to say I had a lot of seasons where I played 40, 50, 60 games,
I'm going to say to you then, would Buchanan have that conversation, or would he rely... You know him a little bit more than I do, or would he rely on his agent to have that conversation?
No, I think he'd rely on his agent. He's a shy guy. He's still inexperienced when he went to Inter Milan, and I'm sure that he was just seduced by the club, as anyone would be, and thought, I got to go there, and the package, the money, everything was probably great, and again, that ego, that confidence, I'm going to play there, and it's not worked out for him. So, can he re-establish himself there, Kev, or is it too late?
The new coach is his only option. The new coach, as you say, is his only option. I think, historically, I think Inter Milan have moved on from him.
Right.
They've let him go on loan. They're now trying to get the highest bidder in, whether that's Villarreal or wherever that's, whether he's impressed a number of other clubs as well, watching him play for Villarreal. Villarreal's put him in the shop window, essentially. I would feel even if Denzel Dumfries reportedly moving to Man City or other clubs are interested in Dumfries, you would naturally think he's going to be the successor. I think they would expect a big name to come in Dumfries, and Tajon Buchanan wouldn't be that big name that they would want. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying he can't overturn this, but I think it's unlikely he's going to overturn it, and I think he probably should get a move away now where he starts again on an even playing field, and he's probably got a little bit of credit in the bank for what he did at Villarreal. So if he went to Villarreal, I think it'd be a great move. So best to cut his losses, but you think Villarreal's the best move for him? Villarreal's a good move. I think that's a really good move for him. I think he's established there already. He's got his foot in the door to an extent, and I think that would be a great move for him. I think it would be a fantastic move for him. Yeah. So he's got to get moving, and he's got to get playing and keep that form, because that's my biggest fear. And You've had a go at me a few times in Race for the Roster saying you got to lock him in at winger, right wing, left wing. I get what you're saying.
My only doubt is if he lets the momentum go from the summer by staying at Inter Milan or ending up at a club that doesn't fit him again, then I think he's going to lose that. Just one last point, how quickly does he need to make the move then? We talk about Jonathan David getting that move done and dusted early. I think 2 or 3 weeks, unless he's getting the word right away from the club and Kivu that he's out the plans. He's probably in a position where that could be delayed till the end of August, and that might hurt him. Yeah, it might hurt him, but that's the risk you take. I had a deadline day move to Leeds United on loan, and it happened right. I had 2 actually. I went to Burnley from Sunderland at the last minute. But I also had one on loan from Newcastle to Leeds, and the anxiety's there. Everton had came in for me 3 days later. Newcastle didn't let it happen. I'm on the bus, I'm going to a reserve game. All of a sudden, the bus stops up the road, turns back round. It was only coming out of Newcastle, turns back round, drops me off at the stadium. You got to go back inside. You're going to Leeds on loan. So it was a great feeling of euphoria. But, I'm sitting on that bus, I'm heading to wherever it was in a reserve game, which I knew I was beyond at that point. I needed first-team football. And I'm depressed, I'm down. All of a sudden, I'm in the car, I'm driving to Leeds, I'm getting into a relegation fight in the Premier League with a brilliant football club. So, the balance is... It's a gamble, isn't it? You wait, or you take the first club right away and you think what else was out there, or you gamble and you wait a little bit and you let time go, and then you see that maybe you're not their first choice, but their first and their second goes, you're their third, and all of a sudden so you're in. You're right on the top of the list, and Buchanan might be landing at, I don't know, Tottenham Hotspur, West Ham, somewhere in the Premier League. Confidence-wise with him then, do you think that
it is best for him to get that deal, or does he see it out into and go, let's give it 6 months?
Yeah, I don't think 6 months. I think 3 weeks.
3 weeks, he'll know by the end of pre-season?
If he's getting the right signals, he stays in the hunt for the next 3 weeks, pre-season, he sees where he lands, he's got to be assessing it on a daily basis, which sends you crazy as well. Yeah. But he's looking at that, and then I think early to mid-August, he says, I'm right in these plans, or I'm not. So I think be patient for the moment is best for Buchanan. Being patient is not best for Ismaël Koné.
No.
He's got to go now.
Yeah, I know. We expressed it a little bit last week on Koné and our worries for him and how his career is going to go. And he has to be wanted. He has to be wanted by a coach that understands him, that understands how a team might need to perform around him to get the best out of him. And it's his next move, I think, is way more important actually than Buchanan's, because I think Buchanan can fit into a number of sides. And I think at the age and maybe relative, I know he's got a lot of games with him, but he still seems inexperienced. Tajon Buchanan seems way more experienced to me than Ismaël Koné.
Yeah.
So I think Koné has to go somewhere now, and I think this has to be done quickly, because his confidence could be drained across this pre-season for him. If he goes into the season not starting, and then a deal's done at the end of the window, he has missed a valuable 6 weeks. And I think it's so important for Koné now to get a deal done. Where he goes, does he go back to Belgium to get game time? I think it's way better
for him to go to Roma, Kev. There's rumours.
Or does he go to Belgium? Does he go back to Belgium? Does he go to Belgium, wherever it would be?
Roma now, for me is the place. The
reason why I say something like that, to me, it would be, does he go to a team like, I wouldn't even say bottom end of Premier League, because I don't think that would be an option for him personally. I don't think that would be the one.
Championship? Back to the Championship?
That's maybe more of a point. Absolutely not. In his mind, I think he's got to maybe think that, not the Championship. I don't think that's the league for him, stay in Europe. Roma, as you say, is...
Gasperini.
Stevie,
Gasperini brings out the best in players. Gasperini seems to find extra in players that are very much in the profile of Ismaël Koné, forgotten about a little bit, or underperforming somewhere else, unrealised potential. So for me, Gasperini in Roma is a perfect fit if it's a reality. Yeah. He's got to go there, work with a guy who'll bring out the best in him, bring something extra to his game, and teach him the fundamentals. We've said it so many times. The ability is there.
Yeah.
He's got to get the fundamental. He has to be reliable week in, week out in the centre midfield. If somebody brings that to his game, then he is going to end up playing with a really top team in Europe at some point.
Do you think it'd be a loan, permanent deal? How do you think that's going to play out for him?
What did he go to Marseille for? 13 million euros?
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Big money, yeah.
It's a lot of money. So do they cut their losses and sell him for 7 or 8? Does he stay there? Champions
League football next year? He's not going to play there, is he?
I don't think there's a place for him with De Zerbi.
No.
I think De Zerbi's a stubborn manager. When he decides you're out. So I think maybe it's another year loan because of the numbers, and he goes there and he proves himself, and then the moves next summer, or it's in the January. Maybe it's a loan with a view to or a deal to a permanent.
Yeah.
But he's got to leave, and I really hope that he goes to Roma, because he's a brilliant player when he's at his best.
If that's on the table, as you say, I mean, he could go to Rennes and play every week where he's been on loan or whatever. But to go to a club like that to me, for him, going to a coach that's going to help him develop, I think that's got to be the way for him.
Yeah.
If that option's available to him.
And a tactical coach as well. You know, a coach that really can add details to his game that he needs. A coach that has mostly played 3-5-2.
So every week?
He's going to have strong competition, but if he adds what he needs to his game, I think he can play. I think he's a player that is so good at his best, but he's got to be reliable. He's got to find reliability, and that means doing the basics in midfield that are just a given. You know, you take a guy who's been at Roma, he's at Roma, Paredes, the Argentinian, who you love, the 6, sits in there, and tactically and game management, he's unbelievable. Quality. He's world class. Talent-wise, athleticism, he's a little lower. Yeah. So can he go to Roma, and I'm not saying he's going to necessarily displace Paredes, because I don't think Koné's exactly a 6, but is he going to win a battle against these kind of guys and prove that he's better than them?
Playing alongside him, you would feel maybe
it be a guy that will
bring the best out of him.
A guy that'll lead him, that'll teach things to Koné that he needs. It could be great. So you look at the competition he's going to get. You look at what he might learn at Roma, because they're going to have a big squad. They're going to be extremely talented. They're going to have experience, and they've got a manager who's incredibly experienced, who has brought out the best in players. I hope that's a possibility. And that's the only move that I want to see him get, to be honest. I think it'd be amazing.
I know, it's a big time for, isn't it, as well. Just a last quick one, Nico Sigur. Rumours of him as well going to Serie A. I think it's Atalanta. We spoke last week again about Sigur and what he did from moving to right back into midfield. And we know the development of players that Atalanta, or the effort they've put into development of players at Atalanta. That if that move was on the cards for him, can you imagine if Buchanan goes to Villarreal, and if, big ifs all round, Ismaël Koné goes to Roma, and then you've got Nico Sigur at Atalanta. Can you imagine having those 4 players, including Jonathan David, in Serie A? I think we're looking at Canada in a different light come next summer, aren't we? With these guys playing at such huge clubs in Italy, in such a great competitive league.
Yeah, I think Nico Sigur absolutely needs that step up. He has to go to a league that is going to test them more. He's done very well at Hajduk Split. He's been established for quite some time, and he sort of like surpassed the league, as a lot of young Croatians might do, and then they go to new pastures and they establish themselves globally. So the young Canadian needs to go now to another league that's a step up. It's a step up in competition week in, week out, and hopefully to a club that is established enough or strong enough that he can prosper. And I think he's got a mindset that can go into an environment like that and find more to his game, really improve. That's the key. I mean, the key in this game is to keep improving. The key is to do enough at the level that you're at to get that move, and then do more at the next level, learn more and push yourself to even greater heights. And I believe Nico Sigur's got the personality to do that.
Starting as well at Atalanta, do you think?
I think so. I think he's good enough. I think he's... I mean, he's the type of player that does well in the modern game because he can play 2 or 3 positions within one match. I think that's a huge advantage for a modern football player.
He's not average, or he's not just decent in any position.
He's good.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's a good player in those positions.
He's good. He's good. He's comfortable out wide in a midfield position or as a fullback. He can invert as a fullback. He's comfortable on the ball. We've saw him play 6'8". He likes to get forward. He can score goals when he gets in the right position. He's just a very solid player. And I believe that that's an attribute that modern managers want, because it allows them to be flexible within a game. So Sigur, for me, would be someone that is on a lot of people's radars. I don't think he's ready for the very top level. So a move to a great league like Serie A and a team like Atalanta, I think gives him a couple of years to establish himself there. And then we can see, does he get a bigger move? Can he go to a bigger team in Serie A or to La Liga or the Premier League at that point?
Big one, big
time on his hands as well.
Time on his head. It's big. It's great. I think it's a great time ahead, isn't it? So I think we'll look forward to this season now, just to see. I know we've got a big year ahead of the World Cup, but it's just going to be an interesting few months, few weeks, essentially a few weeks before the seasons do start. And then beyond that, let's see where these transfers go and what happens then going forward.
All right, so let's get into some big questions.
Yeah.
So I want to start. The first one that I'm going to go into is the farewell that Olivier Giroud received from LAFC. So I saw this, Kev.
But you probably saw
I was probably angry, but
you never contacted me because you know full well what I would feel about something like this, don't you?
I couldn't believe it. I was angry and embarrassed, confused, I guess. I mean, Olivier Giroud, I gotta say, has been an outstanding striker throughout his career. For me, he's someone I've enjoyed watching. He scored goals for most teams that he's played for. He's came to MLS, he's got a big move. He scored 3 goals in MLS in about 30 appearances, a lot of them off the bench.
Yeah.
He's flopped massively. They've probably paid him $2, $3, $4, $5 million over that period of time. Not even 2. It should be 3, 4, 5 in the higher area of that.
Yeah.
And he's getting a send-off from a club that he's failed at. I don't get it.
And virtually no connection, real connection. Across his career, if he's going to mention teams he played for, Stevie...
Did he deserve that send-off?
No, absolutely not. Let's answer the question to start with. Absolutely not. It's a joke. It's a joke that a player can go into a team and play so little minutes, as you say. What was the minutes? Was it about 13 starts or something like that, I think, in his time there?
It was, I think it was about...
MLS.
Yeah.
MLS starts.
It was about 7 starts this season or something like that. 3 goals, you know.
Unbelievable.
So he's been discarded from the 11 at LAFC.
Yes.
I mean, I get the send-off is for what he's done in his entire career, but
there's no
isn't
connection.
that a little embarrassing?
But there's no connection to LAFC. That's not where if he's played... If it's Carlos Vela, who's played so well at LAFC and he finishes, he has the send-off, absolutely deserved because of what he's achieved there and everything. But if you've got a player that started 13 games and he gets this big send-off like that, I don't know. I think it's almost expected now that we've got to go beyond, big and beyond. This is a big name. Olivier Giroud's a big name. He's come to our league and you respect him for going to the league and trying. It's not worked out. Maybe even at the start, when you look at Olivier Giroud and how he plays, I think I could have predicted the way that it would have gone for him in the MLS. I don't think he was suited to the league. And certainly as a DP coming in, to me, it was never going to happen for him. But anyway, that's a side issue. Regardless of what happened while he was here, you wave, you do a short statement, and you're gone. That's it, done and dusted. He's gone back to France now to finish off his career, and great for him. But for LAFC to make such a big thing about this, and the league to make such a big thing about his time in MLS, which was, as you say, dreadful. It was crap. It wasn't good at all, was it? So this is what you're looking at, and you're thinking, how have Olivier Giroud got that? How's he got it, Stevie? I don't know. You tell me. You played in the league, and you know how everything works more so than I do within the MLS. But it just shouldn't happen. It should never happen, and it's crazy to me. It is crazy.
I think they do it because of the profile that the player has, but I think it's embarrassing. And please, MLS clubs, stop doing this. It doesn't look right. To me, it makes a mockery of the league. It makes the league seem like
amateurish.
The retirement league that everybody talks about. Come here, fail for a year, we'll pay you loads of money, and then we'll give you this big flamboyant send-off. No, ridiculous. Just, you can make a statement, you can say something, shake hands, little wave to the crowd, then off you go. But I think it was over the top. It was hyperbolic, and it's something that I'd like to see MLS move away from and sort of respect itself more in terms of what a player does in your league.
I agree.
I totally agree. So, not a good one.
Big one.
Next one for me is what happened at the weekend in Atlanta. So, first of all, horrible injury for Jamal Musiala.
Yes.
We saw him break his ankle in terrible images, and we never want to see that in any player, never mind a young player who's such a great talent. But he was criticised heavily by Manuel Neuer in terms of his reaction to what happened. Not criticised entirely for the challenge that led to Musiala's ankle break, but criticised for his reaction and not being more apologetic and coming to see the player. Was Manuel Neuer right to be so critical of Donnarumma?
No. In a word, absolutely not. And that's a straight answer to your question. And there's a number of factors here. You go back to your point, and I totally agree with your point of Donnarumma is not at fault for the injury.
So the tackle itself, let's talk about that.
The incident itself. I'm not too sure who the PSG defender that's shielding Musiala from the ball.
I think it was Mendes.
Mendes was it? Yeah. And Donnarumma takes the ball. He's going for the ball, eyes solely on the ball, takes the ball. And if anything, Musiala, I think, has got to be look, he's got a long road back now. We all hope he's going to be back for the World Cup. Let's just hope that that's going to be the case for him for next summer. But Musiala, I think, has got to avoid that at all costs. Yeah. He's got to stay out of that, stay out of the incident. So, first off, Donnarumma, absolutely no fault whatsoever from his point of view. He's not gone to hurt or injure an opponent. He's been honest with his challenge. He wins the ball. Musiala, in my opinion, should be staying clear of it. But anyway, that's a side issue. And going back to your point then on Donnarumma and the critic, or how critical, particularly Manuel Neuer, has been of him. Look,
it's unusual for a goalkeeper.
It's very unusual. Very unusual.
Another
Stevie.
Goalkeeper.
Very unusual. It actually happened to me, Stevie, when I was playing a long, long time ago when I was at West Brom, and I inadvertently, and I didn't even know about this, I finished the career of a Norwich City fullback in a challenge called Lee Marshall, and. Again, I don't even remember the challenge, Stevie. This is how, crazy it is. I actually don't remember the challenge, what happened or anything like that went with it. There was a challenge. I think the game carried on. Marshall carried on and he ended up getting taken off. I'm not even too sure he was stretchered off. But as it turned out, the injury was a lot worse. It was a coming together from Marshall and I. And he mentioned in an interview about 18 months later, I think Norwich had then become a Premier League team. I think I might have been in the Premier League at that time. And he mentioned, he's dropped into an interview that it's been a long road to recovery from me, this bad injury that I got with a challenge with Kevin Kilbane. He dropped it in
So you were unaware that you'd even
absolutely unaware that I hurt him.
Never mind.
No one had said anything to me post-game, during the game, post-game afterwards, no physios or whatever it would be had come to see me and said to me, look, this is a worse injury than you. I don't even remember it. Genuinely don't remember it until this interview. And I tried to get in contact with Norwich and things like that. Nothing ended up coming from it. I don't think he absolutely didn't blame me or anything like that. There was no suggestion that I've gone to do him or anything like that. But that was my only thing that I had no recollection of. If I've gone in for a challenge and I've left it on someone and they've got injured, obviously that guilt's going to be there and you're apologetic and you go and see that player straight away as soon as you know. But in terms of Donnarumma here, Donnarumma's probably feels as though nothing's happened. Maybe as 24 hours goes by, 48 hours as the dust settles, Stevie, then he recognises the extent of that injury. I'm sure Donnarumma would have got in contact.
I thought he felt bad on the field when he saw the injury. He looked visibly upset.
Yeah, and that's another thing. When you see an injury on the field like that, Stevie,
no, it's horrible.
You shook up when you see that. It does affect you.
It affects 22 players.
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, we've played in games where guys have badly broken legs. Yeah. You can't play the rest of the game properly.
No.
All you're thinking about is the well-being of your teammate or your opponent.
Yes.
It doesn't even matter what side it happens
to.
But I thought that sometimes we see goalkeepers, if forwards are coming in, they sort of leave a little bit extra. They want to show that don't come in my area again. They establish.
How many times you see a goalkeeper going up with a knee,
which is dangerous.
Yeah.
But I got to say, I didn't see any of that in Donnarumma coming for the ball. I don't even think he could necessarily see Musiala coming from his sort of blind right-hand side. And Musiala, for me, needed to pull out of it. So
I felt that as well.
I didn't see too much.
Do you feel it was right, though, the criticism from Neuer? And do you feel as though
I'm very disappointed
Donnarumma was right within everything that he's done?
I thought he was. The rumour was that Bayern Munich, whole host of players went into PSG changing room at the end, visibly angry and upset, which I think brings into more debate.
Would you have done that if you were Musiala's teammate? Would you have gone into Donnarumma?
No, not at all. I don't think that's right. I think it plays into...
We understand what's going to happen when we go onto the field. Every athlete knows that, don't you?
Is it someone around this tournament, though? Is it someone around this tournament
Frustration
again?
that's boiling over?
It seems like there's a real mix between the competitive nature of this tournament and the fact that some of these guys feel like it's pre-season.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it's in the US and they're so used to playing pre-season in the US or because of the stage of the season that it's at, but to me that's like a pre-season reaction. You storm the dressing room. It would never have happened in a Champions League game.
No.
That the opposition would have go in and been upset. If I was Donnarumma's teammate and I saw Bayern Munich coming in to try and have a go at my goalkeeper, I think I'd have been right up there and in their faces. It was clearly accidental, whether it was a reckless challenge or not, which we feel it wasn't. So I'm very disappointed in Manuel Neuer.
Yeah.
I'm really perplexed as to why he made such a thing of this. And we always talk about the goalkeepers union. These guys stay together all the time.
Yeah.
And I think there's something more in it that he's came for Donnarumma. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they've had something in the past.
Right.
But I think there's something in the fact that Neuer has been very vocal about this. I'm sure he's upset about his mate and the young guy that's an outstanding player being injured long term. But I think there's something more in this. I think that there might be some extras between Donnarumma and Manuel Neuer.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Just a sideshow of that. Well, do you think this is going to affect Germany? And we all hope he's fit. Let's all hope he's fit, because we need the best players at the World Cup next summer, and hopefully that's going to be the case. But his recovery from this injury, and how does that affect Germany? Because he's a huge player for Germany, isn't he?
Him and Wirtz, the whole thing's built around them, isn't it? The whole thing's built around these two tens being very free and flexible in terms of positions that they pick up. Two world-class talents, two guys that, if they find that cohesive form, can win Germany the World Cup. So to lose that takes away a lot from Julian Nagelsmann's team.
Nagelsmann would be obviously
gutted.
Totally, yeah, he is.
He's going to have to change everything around for me.
The next option after Musiala, it's a drop.
It's
a drop. They've got a lot of talent in Germany, but it's a huge drop. He, as you said, Musiala is world class, absolutely world class.
Phenomenal player.
So this is.
We hope he gets well soon. Yeah. Young guy that is extremely fit. Hopefully he can recover and he can at least be there to play some minutes. Last question I've got for you. So we saw a great Gold Cup final last night between Sunday night between US and Mexico. Mexico coming out on top again, but I want to focus on the comments from Mauricio Pochettino, because this has been a theme throughout the entire summer, whether it's Pochettino in USA, Jesse Marsh in Canada.
Yeah.
The comments, I got to say, from Pochettino, and then we'll get to the issue, was that the penalty decision in the box that US didn't get, I believe it was Jorge Sanchez, fullback, handball. He said that, or insinuated at least, that CONCACAF favours Mexico in decision making. Your views on that? Right or wrong?
Well, Jesse Marsh has brought it up. The Canada players absolutely feel the same way, that they aren't favoured in comparison from what Jesse was saying to the US and Mexico.
US and Mexico.
US and Mexico. Okay. So now Pochettino's taking it further. Just Mexico's favoured. The incident itself, I didn't think it was a penalty. Personally, and a lot of people would agree. It'd be interesting to see what a lot of our listeners would feel on that one. I know for a fact a lot of people would feel that's a penalty. Pochettino,
what did you think?
I don't think it's a penalty.
I don't think it's
a penalty.
Not at all.
And Pochettino said himself, if you listen to his post-match comments, he said, look, regardless of whether I think it was a penalty, which I don't think I was thinking he was alluding to the fact it wasn't a penalty. Aside of whether it was or it wasn't, he's alluding to the fact is that if it's in that opposition penalty area and it's a US player that falls on the ball in the same manner, Mexico's getting the penalty.
Yeah.
That's what he's going at there. So,
is he fair to insinuate that would be because of CONCACAF's favouritism, or because it was, again, largely partisan Mexico crowd in the stadium?
Yes. Well, look, you're way more experienced on CONCACAF. You're way more experienced on North American football over here, Stevie, than I am. I'm a bit of a blow-in, as you well know. You might have said that to me in the past. I don't know. But never. My experience of watching it, the decisions at time baffles me, and because we're used to, I'm used to certainly a different sort of game and a different sort of refereeing style than what you would see in CONCACAF. So when you see referees at times, some of the decisions that we even saw in the Gold Cup, and you're watching going, how is that a red? How is this, how is this a foul? How is this not a foul? Whatever you're saying, we would always, look at things in isolation, and sometimes you think, God, I'm not too sure about that one. But this is a common message. So I would think, from what Pochettino's saying there, I'd probably agree to an extent what we say now. We're looking at it from the Canadian aspect. We think clearly Canada have been ill-treated or mistreated quite a few times throughout, although they did get some decisions that went the way at the Gold Cup, particularly in the game against Curaçao. But there have been from me watching games, a lot of the games over the last 5 years, there's been so many incidents that I've watched, Stephen. I've gone, how has that been called against the Canadian player there?
I'm with you.
Or how has that not been given to a Canadian player?
But I think we've got to get away from
Are you going back to the Nations League, though, Stevie, when the foul on Derek Cornelius against Mexico?
But I think we've got to get away from the fact that we believe that this is bias. I think it's just poor refereeing.
Poor refereeing,
It's the quality of the refereeing. They're erratic CONCACAF referees. I don't think that's anything against the Federation, I have to say. And I think Pochettino's deflecting by saying, deflecting the fact that his team never won the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
And bringing this up. It's a talking point.
Yes.
It takes it a little bit away from his team and the fact that they were clearly second best throughout 90 minutes against Mexico, and they were somewhat lucky to be in the game and only lose 2-1. Mexico deserved to win that game 2 or 3-0, in my opinion. They were the better team throughout. And so I think he's deflecting a little bit there. And so I think, when we look at the attendance of this Gold Cup throughout, it's been poorly attended. There's not been great crowds. Yeah. We've seen some smaller stadiums where they've been kind of packed when Guatemala have played. Mexico's packed the place out. So there is a definite, I don't know if it's wish or hope from CONCACAF from a purely financial reason that Mexico play the US in the final, or that Mexico for sure play in the final.
Mexico win. Is that what it is?
No, I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm saying there's a hope that they play in the final because in Houston, in the NRG Stadium, Mexico's always going to pack that stadium. I was there in 2021 for a semi-final against Canada. It was one of the greatest experiences I've had, not being on the field at a game ever, Kev. It was a dark night. It was like last night, so the kind of clear roof, you could see the light. But that night it was dark, and as you looked up, you couldn't tell where the crowd ended. It was like it went on for a mile. It was so loud and it was so dark and cavernous. It was unbelievable. It was electric. The Mexican fans make noise like no other, and in Houston, in Energy Stadium, to me, it's one of the best experiences that you can ever go through. So getting Mexico there is vital for CONCACAF. Playing against, I think, US or Canada is important for them because it's a big game and it showcases their region extremely well. But I don't take for 1 second that there's any bias towards Mexico themselves winning that. I still think there's a little bit of emphasis on Mexico and US getting the best pathways and the best conditions to succeed within the CONCACAF region, but I don't think that there's any bias towards Mexico winning.
So Pochettino's not talking sense.
He's at it.
He's at it.
He's at it. He's deflecting.
Yeah, deflecting from what, though? That's it. We'll talk about that again in the future, eh?
What to talk about again?
Yeah, I know. Stevie, good man. Thanks for this.
Thanks,
Great
Kev.
week. Thank you.